Hey, welcome. Today we're going to bring to you another post-launch new condo review. And this is Pete.
And this is Kim from Singapore Property Pro, assisting you in the next step.
And today we are going to talk about this very interesting new launch. It's called
Lentor Mansion.
By the way, Kim, what was the launch performance of Lentor Mansion?
The result was so amazing, it's 75% sellout.
So if you have read the news, right, over the weekend, right, at the time of this recording, the Lentor Mansion sold out 75% of its unit, right? Selling at what kind of PSF?
2104 per square foot.
2104 per square foot, right? So if you are listening to us for the first time, you are not into property, you might be thinking, what does it all mean, right? 75%, 2104 is all alien to you. That's why we are here to break it down for you and to show you why it's important. By the way, over this video, you know what are the 3 things that we really want to talk about?
Well, I think key thing is price.
Yes, and number 2
layout.
will be the layout. Number 3 will be
school effect.
School effect. So stay tuned. These 3 are very important, and we are going to be running through all these points individually, right? To share with you why we feel that Lentor Mansion, right? Why Lentor Mansion performed so well, right? Over the launch. Okay, so if you look at what was sold and what was left, I think everybody will be interested to know, right? In fact, if you are looking for the 2-bedder, I think I have to give you a bad news. Why?
Sold out.
Right. So
all the 214 units has been sold out on day 1.
Remember, there is 214 2-bedder units, and they are all sold out from day 1.
But don't be sad. Let's look at other unit type, which is the 3-bedder, 4-bedder, and 5-bedder, which have a good handful of stocks that is still available.
Right, but I would like to also highlight this fact. Right, typically the 1-2-bedder, because of investment and lower quantum, those are the first to go in any new launch. But however, I think this is very, very interesting. Right, you look at the 3-bedder. Right, 3-bedder, how many 3-bedders were sold out?
Almost 85%, so it's 170 units sold out of 199 units in the whole development.
So in fact, right, if you're looking for a 3-bedder, which is something that most family will start to be looking at, right, you are left with really less than 30 units to choose from Lentor Mansion, right? But the good news is, out of the 30 units, right, most of them, in fact all of them, are the larger layout, right, like the 1012 square feet layout and the 1023 square feet layout, something that is really suitable if you have a larger family, maybe a 4-person plus a helper, and then this layout I think will still be very suitable for you, right? So in fact, if you look at some of the social media, right, Kim, right, a lot of people might have been, reviewing this particular Lentor Mansion condo to say that, it might be not the correct bid. Why is that so? Is it because they only have 1 bidder?
Well, I think many factors, and one of them is actually looking at it, is actually a sole bidder in the whole Lentor cluster that was launched.
So if you talk about sole bidder, right, so what does it even matter, right? I think it matters is when you want to compare who is your second bidder and what price did they bid, right? So in order to really do that, to compare, right, then you are able to find out whether the price that the developer bid was competitive enough. So it all stacks up, because when you build any development, right, first of all, it's always about the land price. Then the construction costs, the marketing costs, right, all the fees and submission, architectural costs. So all this all add up, but the major part of the cost would be?
It's still the land cost.
Still the land cost. So it's very important to see whether the developer actually bid the land at the correct land cost. So in order to do that, we usually look at the second bidder. So for the whole Lentor cluster, if you look at it, right, Lentor Modern was the first one to got the land, Lentor Hills, Hill Lot, Lentoria, Lentor Mansion, and of course the next parcel will be the Lentor Central parcel, right? So we also actually tabulated to look at who and what was the second bid. So these are the second bidder. So Lentor Mansion does not have a second bidder, but if you look at it carefully, right, second bidder actually bid, right, very close, okay, between 5, 6, even 4%, right?
So looks like single-digit kind of difference between the first and second bidder. Seems to be more competitive?
That's right. In fact, one of this indicator that you need to watch out for is really when you look at the condo that you're buying, did the developer's second bidder keep within a single digit percentage, right? So rule of thumb is if it's really within the second, the bidder actually bid within the one single digit difference, right? It's very likely that the land price that they got is the correct land price. That means that, right, if they got the correct land price, the selling price would also be the correct selling price.
Is that why, when you look at the chart right now, I see Lentoria is actually, there's a 19% difference. So later on we can do a comparison in terms of the sale units to see how it performs.
So that's why when we look at the launch performance, right, you can clearly see that the land price really actually plays quite an important role, right? So number one, if you look at the Lentor Modern was launched in September 2022, right? The entire weekend launch was 84% sold, okay, with a launch price average of about 2001 per square feet. Followed by Lentor Hills, okay, launched in July 2023, 50% of the units were sold on launch weekend, okay, an average launch price about $2,080 per square foot. And followed by Hillock, right? Hillock is something that is a little special because this is the one that is not developed by the same developer as Lentor Mansion. Okay, so Hillock was launched at 27% over the launch weekend. It was sold at a launch average price of $2,108, followed by Lentoria, right? And you remember Lentoria bidded the land at 19% difference from the second bidder. And when they launched, right, you can see in March, right, in fact this was only 1 week, okay, earlier than Lentor Mansion, the performance was only 19% sold over the launch weekend at an average price of $2,108. So if you look at the pattern, right, okay, so the pattern from 2008, 2001, right, you would naturally think that from 19%, okay, Lentor Mansion may probably launch around the 20-25% range, right? Okay. However,
it outperforms.
It has outperformed at 75% sold at launch weekend with an average launch price that is even lower than the average launch price of Lentoria. So it goes to show that this factor is something that you should not miss, especially when you look out for your next new launch to buy, which is the land price which the developer bought the unit. All right.
One more question, Pete. I realized in the whole Lentor cluster, it seems that the main bidder comes from Guacoland and Hong Leong. So is that a good thing or not?
So this is also something that you want to take note of. Okay, out of the 6 plot, and I'm also including the plot that is going to be launching later part of this year, okay, which is the Lentor Central plot over here, right? All of them out of the 6 plot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 6 are all under the Guacoland, the Lentor umbrella. So in fact, this means that they are the master developer. So what happens if when there's a master developer?
Good then they won't cannibalize each other, isn't it?
That's it. This is one of the factors that is very important, especially if you are a buyer, because they will control the price. If the next launch by the master developer is going to be too cheap, right, then what's going to happen to those units that are already launched, which they find that is too expensive, right? So this factor will actually help you to enter an area even more easily and more, I would say, feel more secure, because the master developer is able to manage the price of the entire township of Lentor in this case. So you'll be sure that you will neither be getting something that is too expensive, or neither you'll be buying something that is too cheap. But more importantly, you'll be buying something that is of value, right?
Agree.
So if you move on, right, when we talk about the unit mix, right, you can see that the entire unit mix is more skewed towards, family, because 2-bedder, 40%, more for investment, okay, own stay about 60%, which is 3, 4, and 5-bedder. In fact, this is the only development until now it has a 5-bedder layout, right?
Yeah,
so if you are a big family looking for a huge layout, right, I think Lentor Mansion Okay, it might be something that you can consider. Okay, so if we look at the site plan, right, this entire site sits on the largest plot that is in the entire Lentor cluster, Lentor Township.
Yeah, I noticed that this is the largest plot, and yet the number of units is not too many, right? It's only 533. So which means what, the developer can build more units, but they didn't. So they give more landscape to the consumer to enjoy. Am I right?
Exactly. So if you really to dive into the rules, right? URA said that the developer maximum have to be, there's this thing called site coverage.
I know.
Right? So
it's 50%, right?
So by the way, you might not know what is site coverage. It all means is this, right? If you have a 10,000 square meters of land, if a site coverage of 50%, simply just means that out of the 10,000 square meter, 5,000 square meter you can use to build the footprint, okay, of the blocks.
Okay,
right?
okay.
So anything that the developer does, you know, any developer who is out there to really to make money, right, will just maximize, right? Am I right to say so? Okay.
So whereas for this plot, the developer is like giving probably 70% that goes to the entire development for landscaping and amenities, and probably 20-30% that is for site coverage. Am I right?
Exactly. So the exact number is actually 26% thereabout for the site coverage, which is less than 30%, right? In fact, they can actually go all the way up to 50%, like we just said, but it's just 30%, meaning that the developer actually is very concerned about putting in more of the facility so that you can enjoy the facilities, and not just a developer just want to make money out of building more blocks. In fact, if you look at the site plan, there is 6 blocks, okay, and they are all skewed at an angle to allow all of them to be in the north-south orientation. In fact, if you just line them up, right, I think you can easily put another block down there, but they did not. So in fact, they actually build it in such a way to allow, you know, a more, I would say, a more comfortable living environment.
And they even put in a tennis court.
I like tennis court. I know you like tennis court.
I heard from a lot of resale buyers, because serving all the resale buyers, I realized that tennis court is so important.
Right. Okay. So, like, if you heard by now and you think that yes, I want to look further into, you know, understand more about Lentor Mansion and probably find myself a unit and explore that, right? And then feel free to connect with us, right? The link is in the description and you will see a pop-up right here, okay, in the video showing you how to connect with us. Our WhatsApp link is right there. So feel free to connect with us to learn more about all the units, right? If not in Lentor Mansion, in the entire Lentor cluster. So let's continue and see what is the first thing that we want to look out for, which is the price. So we would like to look at the price from a few angles. Number one, we already talked about the land price. Okay, so the second angle I want to talk about is really what is your neighbor's launch pricing. Okay, so I would like to, you know, look at just 2 developments, which is Lentor Hills Residence and Lentoria. So why I don't choose those 2 compare with Lentor Mansion?
Simple reason, I believe, I mean, if we do an apple to apple comparison here, Lentor Hills and Lentoria, they are within the 1 kilometer to Setnix, right? And Lentor Mansion as well. So it's a fair comparison in that sense.
So we wanted to get the development that has the same school effect factor, so we will know that everything that we compare is apple to apple. So if you look at Lentor Hills, right, you just look at the 3-bedder. 3-bedder for Lentor Hills during the launch are already going for about 2,022 per square foot, going for about 1.9 million. And we look at the 3-bedder for Lentoria is actually going for about 2.1 million. So when we look at it individually as its own, right, it doesn't mean anything. That's why we always like to compare, and we want to compare properly, apple to apple. So at this point of time where we are recording this video, right, we do not actually have the transacted prices because they just sold 75% over the weekend. And what we can tell is we use whatever the developer has given us, that these are the prices that they're going to be starting from. So at least we know that this is the correct benchmark that we look at. So if we look at Lentor Mansion, right, at the 3-bedder, okay, for the compact 3, okay, it's starting at 1.7 million for the compact 3.
Very good entry price.
Never mind, for the standard 3, if you even look at the standard 3, the standard 3 are starting at 2.085 million. Okay, so what does that even mean? So if you look at Lentor Hills, the development that was launched earlier compared to these two developments. Okay, the 3-bedder is already going for 1.9 million. Of course, a later development that's launched, like Lentor, which was launched later after Lentor Hills. Okay, you can see the 3-bedder is already going for about $2.1 million. That's why if you look at it, you follow the pattern 1.9, 2.1, the next one should be
2.1 or higher, right?
2.1 or higher. So, but you look at it, it's starting from 2.085. And I would say that some of the transactions, when the transactions numbers are available, it should fall within the 2.1, maybe touching the 2.2 million range. I think a lot of people are also able to see the same value that we are actually showing you right now, which is it is a safe entry price for them to enter. Okay, so comparing new launch to new launch is one of them, right? The next thing we also want to compare is
a resale.
Resale, exactly. So if you talk about a resale, when we want to compare a new launch to a resale, right, we also have to look at the similar attributes. Okay, so look at a resale, similar square foot, similar distance to popular school, scenic, right? So there is this resale property which is called
Panorama, right? Which is
exactly.
Relatively, I mean, in terms of age-wise, number of units, and within the 1 km to scenic. Yep, this is the closest comparison that we can get for the
So if you
resale.
look at the Lentor cluster is right here, Panorama is right here, scenic is actually over here, right? So this is what we call an apple-to-apple comparison. So if you look at Panorama, okay, the contract or the transaction date, the resale transaction date, okay, recent transaction date in 2024 in February. In fact, for the 3-bedder, okay, similar square footage, about 1,000 plus square foot, right? If you look at the price has already transacted. How much is the price transacted, Kim?
2 million all the way to 2.3 million.
Yes, in fact, most of them you can see are all above the 2 million quantum. But never mind, let's just look at the per square foot. The per square footage are already crossed $2,000 per square foot. And this is for a development that is a resale, right? So can you imagine if you just want to be comparing this, a resale, like a Panorama resale, and you're paying $2,000 per square foot right now, okay, compared to what we have just shown you, which is
Lentor Mansion.
a new launch, right, which you are paying also about 2 million and also about $2,100 per square foot. So the thing is, what happens 4 years down the road? 4 years down the road, your new launch, no matter which development that you buy, okay, in the Lentor cluster, okay, it's going to be, when you collect key, it's going to be a 0-year-old new launch.
Correct.
But when you talk about the resale,
so Panorama would be
it's going to be 9 years old.
9 years old, yeah.
Okay, so a 9 years old versus a 0 years old, and both of them are also in the $2,100 per square foot range. So which one would you choose? Okay.
Yeah.
So
now I know. No wonder when it comes to a resale versus a development that is newly TOP, people are willing to pay a bit more for a newer, brand new development. Even for tenants, the same thing, right? They would rather, because of a newer development, they don't mind moving.
That's exactly why it is. So this is one of the checklists that we will perform for all our clients, right? Which is to really study and to see whether you are entering at a safe entry price. Okay, so of course, if you look at the land itself, right? Okay, you know that there's this land plot that is called Champions Way. By the way, you know where's Champions Way?
Woodlands?
Champions Way is in Woodlands there. So Champions Way is 2 stops, MRT stops north of Lentor cluster. And by the way, it's going to be selling estimated around 1950 per square foot.
For
very
Woodlands,
close to
wow.
2,000 in Woodlands. So would you think that something in Lentor going for a $2,100 per square foot is still something that is the correct price to enter? I'll leave it up to you, right? I think the number 2 thing that we want to really talk about, okay, besides price, is the layout.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at the layout wise, right, Lentor Mansion has a very good layout. In fact, if you look at the 2-bedder, right, 2-bedder is all completely gone. And here's the reason why. So if you look at the 2-bed, 2-toilet, right, okay, 657 square feet. Okay, it gives you the same dumbbell layout.
But
okay?
Pete, if I'm a consumer and if I just look at the size, right? To me, it's like, 657 square feet. No way am I going to buy. I would rather look for something that's 700, right? But now when we dive deep into the layout, now as a consumer perspective, I were to be the one buying, right? I truly understand why Lentor Mansion sell out on day one, right? Look at it. It's 3.65 meters wide as compared to the other, which is quite standard layout, right? In Lentoria and Lentor Hills, right? The walkway is actually, the width is actually narrower, right?
You mentioned two
correct.
points which is absolutely very critical. So number one is, if you look at the square footage one, right, you must remember Lentor Mansion is the first that is going to have this GFA harmonization. So what does GFA harmonization mean? GFA harmonization, I have the definition here. In fact, okay, in short, what you step on is what you buy lah. Right? But more importantly is you no longer buying air. So last time you buy all the unit that got void, right? You buy the air, but you cannot step on. So what you step on is what you buy now. Second thing that is very important in harmonization is the aircon latch. So the aircon latch is no longer included into the strata area when they sell you. So like I say all this, right, what does it even mean, right? It really means that, okay, the floor size, right, is going to be from the normal, it's going to be reduced by probably about 6 to 8%, right? We'll use probably about 7% on an average. So if you look at apple to apple, okay, a 710 square feet, and you remove that 7%, right? So remove that 7%, wouldn't it be very close to the 657?
Correct,
right?
yeah.
Because of what? Because the 710 square feet includes the aircon, this aircon latch, which they sell you. Okay? But for the new harmonization, you can see the aircon is non-strata. Non-strata means that they cannot sell you. You got an aircon latch, they cannot sell you. Okay? So that's one thing. The second thing is really when you buy something, right, is the layout. And it's a layout as not only you as a buyer, but you must consider the layout as a resale buyer. Who is your future buyer going to experience? And this is one of the main selling points. I think one of the reasons why I think that Lentor Mansion sold out all their two-bedders. If you look at the two-bedder, like you mentioned, the two-bedder has a very wide entrance, which is 3.65 meters. What does it even matter? Imagine when you enter, you are able to look at a very big angle wall, right? It just means that it just have the perception that there is more.
Why it's wider. So in future when I step in, well, the whole space is actually bigger, right?
And space is something that is going to be a premium moving forward. Am I right to say?
Size matters,
right?
Okay.
So if you look at Lentor Hills, which is a pretty good, decent layout by the way also, but you can see that the entryway, right, is narrow. Okay. So when it's a narrow entryway, okay, what does it show? It gives you a narrow angle of sight. So when there's a narrow angle of sight, you'll probably be feeling that even though it is a bigger strata area, you will feel that maybe it's a little bit smaller just because of what you see. Okay, you have to walk all the way to the living in order to open up your view, right? So I think this is one of the key reasons that you need to consider, in fact, when you are going to buy a resale. Because every time when you go to buy a new launch, right, there's going to be so many different layouts. In fact, Lentor Mansion itself has 8 different layouts, okay, for their 3 bidders. So which one are you going to choose? Okay, so you need to have somebody who has studied all the layouts and to give you that, a better advice to see which one would actually perform better in the future.
No wonder sometimes when I go resale viewing, right, some layout just cannot move, but some layout just snap up within one open house.
Exactly.
So this explains, right?
Exactly, because it's very important to also understand who is the resale buyer that is going to possibly buy over your unit in the future, which a lot of people, in fact, do not consider this as one. In fact, this is actually one of the checklists that we always share with our clients, especially when choosing a new launch or even a resale for the matter. Okay, so let's take a look at the 3-bed, 3-toilet, right? The 3 compact, right? So the 3 standard, by the way. So it's 3 standard. So if the 3 standard, if you look at it, right? Okay, Lentor Mansion has a very Very, very good layout. Why?
With
Because
990 square feet, I also, as a consumer, right, a lot of people tell me, too small, I won't buy. I want to look at something that is over 1,000. Actually, like what you have shared earlier on, the harmonization, right? If I were to add back the, 6 to 8%, right, of that space, right? Actually, it comes out to be the same, to be above 1,000, right?
Exactly. So if you look at this, it will just go up to be close to this. 1055, 1066, 1033, this kind of layout, which is the common 3-bed, 3-toilet layout for a lot, which isn't under the harmonization rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we were to break down, right, in fact, the room size is, bigger, or I would say the same as the other two development, Lentor and Lentor Hills. In fact, the space are very well, efficiently planned out.
Exactly. Besides the layout, the size itself, right? I think it's also very important to understand the layout. So this is what I think is sold out. By the way, this 3-bed, 3-toilet, no more already. Sold out. You're left with less than 30 units, which is the larger, 1023 and above. Okay, by the way, so if you look at the 3-bedder layout, right, the entryway, same thing, if you look at it, it opens up the view, which is very good. So if you are able to visualize it, if you are the buyer, future buyer, right, it's going to be something that's good. Okay, of course, you do not buy the aircon latch, which is good for you. Okay, so typical aircon latch, right, is between 6 to 7 square meters, right? Not cheap, 6 to 7 square meters is maybe close to about 80, 90, even $100,000, right? So if you think about it, it's quite a lot. Okay? Then they have this kitchen, right, which I think some of them may want to close it up, which makes it an enclosable.
Correct.
Give you the concept. In fact, on the show flat itself, they already have something that's able to put a sliding door to close up the wet kitchen area. Okay, so if you look at comparing to the other, because likely people who look at Lentor Mansion who haven't bought earlier on must have seen Lentor Hills or even Lentor. So Lentor Hills, right, the layout is also pretty good. The entryway not very big, but still there is something that is blocking. You have a very narrow view looking into the living area. Okay, if you look at Lentor, same thing, because there's a very long walkway, which really restricts what you see until you go all the way to the living area, right? So layout is important. So there are so many layouts in new launch especially, so it's very confusing on what you choose, or even resale, right? Which is a layout that you think is potentially good, may not be so good in the future when you want to sell it in the resale market. So if you're confused, right, just ping us, right? Our link is in the comments, and we'll be very happy to share with you more how to choose the correct layout. Okay, last item.
Wow, school effect. Yep.
So on social media, a lot of people might have told you that, wow, Lentor got a lot of unit, next time cannot sell. By the way, how many units are in Lentor altogether?
I think if I add up the current land launch development plus the upcoming new land parcel, it's probably about 3,000 units in total.
If you look at the 6 parcel that we know that's going to launch, Lentor Modern, Hills, Hillock Green, Lentora, Lentor Mansion, Lentor Central, altogether, total units about 3,000. But I'd like to streamline it even more. Like I say, I like to look at it, people buy this area, want to go to school, there is only about 1,000 units. Okay, there's 1 kilometer to St. Nick's. And out of the 1,000 units, maybe only about 50% belonging to the 3, 4, or even the 5-bedder. So in actual fact, out of the 1,000 units, maybe less than 500 units are available for a future buyer who wants to buy into St. Nick's.
I see.
Right? So is 500 units, are all of them going to sell at the same time?
I doubt so. Yeah.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
So is there an oversupply? I do not know, but you can answer that question for yourself, right? There's not a lot of units. That's especially that people want to buy into the area and want to go to St. Nick's for the 1 kilometer school effect. So why school effect is important? I mean, let's take a look at some other well-established condos, right, around the area. If you look at this condo, right, this condo is called Bishan Point. Okay, it's a standalone single block, small development, 164 units.
And it's also very old. It's already 20 years old.
Almost 20
right?
years old. POP in 2005. Okay, and guess what is the performance?
So if I look at the chart, wow, every year keep on increasing, even though it's a 20-year-old development. And All this is because of the school effect.
Exactly. So if you have spoken to your agent or anybody who talks to you about this, you will probably look at a new launch, will have this new launch, and then after that, you'll stabilize for a very long time, right? However, if you look at this particular development, which is very near to, which school is it, by the way?
Ai Tong.
Yeah, it's very near to this very popular school called Ai Tong, right? Not only is this 20-year-old development, right, okay, really perform, is very much different from other resale development that we've seen. It's really done spectacularly well, and I think the reason is because it is very near to a popular school.
School effect.
In fact, if you look at other condos that are around the area, which is equally old as well, right, they also perform the same kind of performance, which is why we think the school effect is one of those reasons, okay, that we know that why Lentor Mansion perform very well. So Kim, talk about Lentor, because Lentor got MRT, right?
So the good thing is, we noticed for the Lentor cluster, the government has set up the infrastructure first. And we look at the whole Thomson East Coast line from the Lentor station, and this is one of the most station that is so well connected. And if I count 1, 2, 3, there are total 5 interchange stations that is so well connected to Lentor. So if I want to head up to Jurong or Woodlands area, it's just 3 stops and I can go up to Woodlands to change the north-south line, right? Then later on, if I want to go down to town and change to a circle line, I just need to take another 3 stops down towards Cattle Court and I can change to a yellow line. So if you want to head down to the town area or to the District 10 where the Upper Bukit Timah area that is famous for school as well, I just need to take another few stops down to Stevens Interchange where I can change to a downtown line. And from Lentor to Orchard Station, it's just less than 20 minutes and it takes you to town area. So it is very well connected, and kudos to the government who actually started planning the infrastructure first before any of the residential is being launched, right?
So it's 9 stations to Orchard Station, and by the way, if you look closely, right, Lentor Mansion is here through the side gate, right, to Lentor MRT station, right, is actually about 300 odd meters. So if you have long legs like me, maybe 3 minutes lah. But if you have shorter legs, like maybe a bit longer, right? So anyway, so this is our review of, right, the post-launch review of this Lentor Mansion and some of the information of the Lentor cluster. In fact, we do a lot of this analysis of the Lentor cluster. We serve a lot of buyers who have already successfully bought into the Lentor cluster, and already I think they are definitely thinking that they made a very good move going to the Lentor cluster as a first mover, right? So if you want to find out more and learn more about how we can potentially help you, right, just feel free to connect us, link in the comments, and link you can see right now on the screen right here, or comment or connect directly with us. My phone is definitely on the screen right now. So this is Pete.
And this is Kim.
And we will be helping you take the next step together with Singapore Property Pro. See you in the next video.